What would happen if African nations severed ties with the West? Would they be left isolated? Western powers often assume that countries like Burkina Faso can't survive without their support. However, nations such as Cuba and Venezuela have backed Burkina Faso's decision to turn away from Western influence, seeing it as a positive step, similar to the paths taken by countries like Iran and Russia. This shift hasn't pleased the West. President Ibrahim Traoré, who is leading these pivotal changes, has faced opposition from Western nations, which historically have reacted strongly to leaders who don't align with their interests. So the question remains, will history repeat itself? Let's take a closer look. Imagine a country at the heart of Africa rewriting its own story, forging new partnerships, and standing up to global powers. Under Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso is building new ties with Russia and South American nations, navigating an evolving geopolitical landscape. But what led to this dramatic shift? Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation in West Africa, has long been shaped by the legacy of colonialism, particularly by France. Now, with Traoré at the helm, the country is re-evaluating these historical connections. After assuming power in September 2022, Traoré made a bold move. On February 8, 2024, he ordered the removal of French military forces from the country. This act marked a significant break from neo-colonial influences and signaled a push for true national sovereignty. This decision wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. By removing foreign troops, Burkina Faso aimed to reclaim its autonomy and reduce foreign interference. The move resonated across the continent and positioned Traoré as a key figure in Africa's modern push for genuine independence. Countries with similar colonial pasts saw in this move a powerful example of resistance and renewal. Burkina Faso officially announced the termination of a military agreement that had allowed French forces to operate within its territory against insurgent groups. Extremists linked to ISIS and Al-Qaeda have destabilized large parts of the Sahel, displacing millions. On national television, the government declared the 2018 agreement void as of January 18, giving France a month to withdraw its troops. The following day, French President Emmanuel Macron sought clarification from Traoré. In response, Burkina Faso's spokesperson, Remtalba Jean Emmanuel Wadiogo, asserted that the government's stance was already crystal clear. France's expulsion triggered global reactions. Across Africa, the move was seen as part of a growing trend toward autonomy and self-governance. While Traoré's decision earned praise for its boldness, some warned of the risks involved. Nevertheless, this moment marked a turning point in Burkina Faso's foreign policy, favoring alliances with nations that share its vision for sovereignty and economic self-reliance. Across Africa, nations continue to wrestle with how to assert real independence while managing the lingering effects of colonial ties. Traoré's choice to remove French forces is part of a broader movement in which African leaders are opting for partnerships based on mutual respect rather than subordination. This shift is viewed as crucial for achieving lasting peace and prosperity on the continent. By cutting ties with France, Burkina Faso is not only reasserting its sovereignty, but also sending a strong message to other African nations. Progress doesn't have to come through dependence on former colonial powers. Under President Ibrahim Traoré, the country is actively pursuing partnerships rooted in mutual respect and shared objectives, breaking away from exploitative relationships of the past. As we explore further, we'll examine the key alliances Burkina Faso is building and the potential consequences of this strategic realignment. Let's start with its growing ties to Venezuela. How did this unlikely alliance form, and what makes it so significant? The relationship between Burkina Faso and Venezuela began to take shape following Traoré's bold move to expel French troops. On February 8, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro extended invitation to Traoré, signaling a new era of cooperation. Shortly after, the foreign ministers of both nations, Jean-Marie Traoré and Venezuela's Ibrahim Traoré, met and signed 20 wide-ranging cooperation agreements. These covered key sectors such as energy, education, agriculture, sports, aviation, culture, and science and technology. This broad-based partnership is more than symbolic. It reflects a deep commitment to long-term cooperation and shared development. Venezuela's support, both economically and militarily, underscores a common anti-imperialist stance. Minister Gil reaffirmed Venezuela's dedication to strengthening ties with Burkina Faso and Africa at large, highlighting the importance of South-South collaboration. Energy was a central focus, with plans for Burkinabe experts to visit Venezuela and benefit from its experience in the oil sector. This could prove pivotal for Burkina Faso's economic growth and energy independence. In aviation, joint ventures are expected to foster better infrastructure and innovation. Agricultural exchanges aim to boost food security and local production. Cultural programs are designed to strengthen social bonds and mutual understanding, while educational and sports initiatives are geared toward building healthy, well-educated communities. These areas are key to laying the foundation for sustainable development and empowering future generations. Military cooperation is another vital pillar of the alliance. Venezuela's promise of defense support could enhance Burkina Faso's ability to maintain stability and assert its sovereignty, shielding it from external threats and influence. Beyond their practical benefits, these agreements symbolize a bold commitment to a shared vision of self-reliance and national dignity. They reflect a broader trend of countries from the global south choosing to work together, rejecting the dependency that often comes with Western aid and influence. With these new relationships forming, one question remains: what are the broader international implications for Burkina Faso as it repositions itself on the world stage? Burkina Faso's growing alliance with Venezuela is part of a broader geopolitical shift involving South American nations and Russia. Historically, during the Cold War, countries like Cuba, Venezuela, and Argentina maintained close ties with the Soviet Union. Influential anti-imperialist figures such as Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez, and Che Guevara shaped this legacy, which still echoes in today's political landscape. Venezuela's current support for Burkina Faso is a continuation of that legacy. By aligning with these anti-imperialist nations, Burkina Faso is breaking away from traditional Western alliances. Economically, this new direction opens up opportunities across key sectors such as energy, agriculture, and education. Militarily, support from nations allied with Russia, like Cuba and Venezuela, could significantly bolster Burkina Faso's defense capabilities. Regionally, this alliance may also reshape the political landscape of West Africa. Burkina Faso's pivot toward Russia and South America, and away from Western influence, may inspire other African nations to reassess their foreign policy orientations. Such a shift could disrupt existing power dynamics dominated by former colonial powers and their allies. Moreover, the Burkina Faso-Venezuela partnership could serve as a blueprint for other African states seeking alternative alliances beyond the West. This trend suggests the gradual emergence of a more multipolar world, where influence is more evenly distributed. Increased cooperation among global South countries may give rise to new political and economic blocs that challenge the status quo and push for a more equitable international order. Burkina Faso's new foreign policy path could also affect global institutions like the African Union and the United Nations. These organizations may be forced to adapt to the changing demands of member states that are asserting their sovereignty and resisting traditional hierarchies. The push for South-South cooperation, seen in Burkina Faso's growing ties with South American partners, offers an alternative model of diplomacy grounded in mutual respect and shared development goals. Unlike the often hierarchical relationships with Western powers, South-South partnerships encourage solidarity, the exchange of knowledge and resources, and collective advancement. Such collaboration could result in more inclusive and sustainable development outcomes. Additionally, Burkina Faso's strategic alignment may influence the global energy landscape. Stronger ties with Venezuela, a major oil producer, could provide Burkina Faso with access to vital energy resources and technical know-how. This would reduce the country's dependence on Western energy imports and improve its energy security. As more countries seek to diversify their energy partnerships and build resilient energy infrastructure, this could prompt broader shifts in global energy dynamics. So how have global and regional actors responded? The international community, especially Western nations, has been closely monitoring Burkina Faso's evolving alliances. In response, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have faced sanctions from Western governments. These punitive measures are aimed at pressuring the countries to reconsider their partnerships and realign with traditional Western allies. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. In defiance, the military-led governments of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger recently announced their immediate withdrawal from the West African Regional Economic Bloc, signaling a unified stance against foreign pressure and an embrace of greater regional autonomy. The military-led governments of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger accused the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, of imposing harsh sanctions intended to reverse recent coups in their respective countries. In a joint statement broadcast across state television in all three nations, the military governments declared their withdrawal from ECOWAS, citing full national sovereignty as the basis for their decision. They criticized the bloc for deviating from its Pan-African roots and the vision of its founding leaders. According to the military governments, ECOWAS has evolved into a threat to member states due to growing foreign interference. This declaration followed a series of destabilizing events in the region, including a military coup in Niger earlier that year. The political upheaval has led to a broader realignment, with the three countries, backed by Russia, severing military ties with France and other European powers in favor of a new security pact among themselves. Despite facing sanctions from Western nations, Burkina Faso continues to gain support from its new international partners. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro sent a delegation to Ouagadougou to reaffirm South America's backing for Burkina Faso. The visit highlighted a deepening relationship between the two regions, grounded in mutual development goals. During discussions with President Ibrahim Traoré, the Venezuelan delegation pledged financial aid and military assistance, reinforcing Burkina Faso's pivot toward non-Western alliances. This strategic reorientation reflects a significant shift in Burkina Faso's foreign policy, away from dependence on the West and toward a more diversified and independent international approach. However, the move has sparked debate both domestically and among the country's allies. While some view alignment with anti-imperialist forces as a pathway to genuine sovereignty, others argue that maintaining ties with Western partners remains vital for economic stability. Nevertheless, the imposition of sanctions has only strengthened Traoré's resolve to explore alternative avenues of support. Backing from nations such as Venezuela and other South American allies has provided Burkina Faso with the confidence and resources to resist Western pressure. ECOWAS has expressed concern over Burkina Faso's changing alliances, given its historical alignment with Western interests. The organization has called for renewed dialogue, emphasizing the importance of regional unity and peaceful resolution of disputes. ECOWAS now finds itself at a crossroads, torn between preserving regional stability and respecting the sovereign decisions of member states. Burkina Faso's choice to align with anti-imperialist blocs raises serious questions about the future of regional cooperation and the broader power dynamics in West Africa. To maintain peace and avoid further destabilization, ECOWAS will need to navigate this shifting landscape carefully and consider reforms that reflect the evolving aspirations of its members. The United Nations and other global institutions have also taken notice of Burkina Faso's geopolitical turn. The UN has stressed the need for peaceful conflict resolution and adherence to international norms. As Burkina Faso forges new alliances, the international community will be watching closely to ensure the country remains committed to these principles. Ultimately, the reactions of regional and international organizations underscore the broader implications of Burkina Faso's foreign policy transformation. The nation is not only asserting its sovereignty and seeking new partnerships, but also facing the challenge of maintaining internal stability and navigating complex diplomatic terrain. While support from allies like Venezuela provides a buffer against external pressures, long-term success will depend on careful diplomacy and strategic planning. Burkina Faso stands at a critical juncture in its foreign policy, with multiple factors influencing its future direction. President Ibrahim Traoré is faced with a pivotal decision: whether to maintain the country's alignment with nations like Russia, Cuba, and Venezuela, or to shift course and rejoin ECOWAS, which aligns more closely with the interests of the United States and France. With the support of Venezuela and other South American countries, Burkina Faso has the opportunity to forge new economic and military partnerships that could attract much-needed investment in key sectors and enhance the nation's development prospects. However, aligning with anti-imperialist blocs carries its own risks, particularly in the form of potential economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation from Western powers. Yet, this move could undermine the country's efforts to assert its sovereignty and break away from neo-colonial influences. The decision President Traoré must make involves balancing the long-term strategic ambitions of Burkina Faso with its current political and economic constraints. The path he chooses will not only shape the future of Burkina Faso, but also influence its standing in the global arena. The broader implications of Burkina Faso's foreign policy will likely ripple across the African continent. If Traoré's approach proves successful, it may inspire other nations to pursue similar independent alliances and challenge existing geopolitical norms. This could trigger a broader continental push for decolonization and self-reliance. Additionally, collaborations with South American countries might open new doors for trade and innovation, helping to stimulate economic growth and job creation. Knowledge exchange and technological cooperation could be instrumental in building a strong, self-sustaining economy. Nevertheless, the challenges of this path must not be overlooked. Western sanctions could restrict trade, deter investment, and limit Burkina Faso's access to global markets. Diplomatic isolation could also hinder the nation's ability to participate meaningfully in international decision-making. Navigating these difficulties will require strategic foresight, diplomatic finesse, and a clear long-term vision. Internally, the success of any foreign policy direction will depend heavily on domestic support. Engaging civil society, promoting transparency, and building national consensus will be vital to fostering resilience and unity. Burkina Faso is entering a defining moment in its history under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré. The withdrawal of French military presence and the pivot toward alliances with Venezuela and other anti-imperialist states signal a significant shift in its geopolitical orientation. While these new partnerships present opportunities for growth and cooperation, they also bring uncertainty and external pressure. The international reactions, including sanctions from Western powers, underscore the weight of this transformation. Ultimately, Burkina Faso's future will be shaped by how skillfully its leaders navigate this new and complex global landscape. Whether they choose to reinforce their break from Western dominance or recalibrate toward more traditional alliances. Burkina Faso is indeed at a turning point, a moment charged with both uncertainty and possibility. As it embarks on this transformative path, the key question is how it can maintain sovereignty while pursuing development in a global order still largely shaped by Western influence. Its future will depend on its ability to forge meaningful partnerships that are grounded in mutual respect, rather than dependency or exploitation. As for whether the West is necessary for Burkina Faso, or any African country, to be secure, that's a question many across the continent are now courageously asking. The future of Burkina Faso, and perhaps much of Africa, will depend on whether leaders like Ibrahim Traoré can withstand external pressure while building trust at home and abroad. If successful, this could mark the beginning of a more sovereign, equitable era in African geopolitics. One not shaped by what the West allows, but by what Africans demand for themselves. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed. You're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.